Welcome into Bet On It. I am Drew Martin, stepping in for Kelly Stewart, the impossible task of stepping in for Kelly in Vegas. But hey, we're not going to be as talented. We're not going to be as pretty. But I'm surrounded by two of the heavy hitters in the industry that will step up for me. We got at Greek Gambler, Ace himself.
Ready to go.
And Marco in Vegas on Twitter, at Marco in Vegas. Guys, this is Bet On It. Let's get right into it. What we saw from Conference Championship weekend, this past weekend, in both the AFC and NFC Championship games, things we can take into the Super Bowl, the opening lines. Ace, come to you first. What do you take away from last weekend going into the opening lines for the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I was wrong. I mean, listen, I went 4-0 in the divisional round, profitable in the playoffs. But last week, I had Kansas City in the first game. I ended up splitting because I had it with the under. And then in the second game, I had Green Bay, and I was surprised how little they showed up. I mean, you're 60 minutes from a Super Bowl. You got to win one game.
Right.
You don't quit after the first quarter. It seemed like, I mean, they had no answers, but they didn't even seem to try to change anything up. So for me, that was a little disappointing. So I was a little biased there. You know, that's the difficulty. If you have action, like, you shouldn't bet immediately after those games. As much as you want to get out ahead of the market, you also need to, like, not fire based on that one result, because there's going to be a lot of bias there. Mm-hmm. And for me, I think the bias showed up immediately with the total. You saw Kansas City game, AFC Championship, a lot of points scored. NFC Championship, a lot of points scored. And immediately the total comes out and
gets
boom,
right
up to 54. You knew that was coming, you know. So for me, the takeaway was both teams kind of made it look easy. I mean, Kansas City fell behind 10 points, but they never were in jeopardy of losing that game as soon as they put their foot on the gas. Look, you saw who the better team was.
Right, they got right off to the runway there.
Exactly.
Marco, what about you, man? What did you take away from last week?
Well, you know, you talk about what that first reaction is, and Ace, you bring up the best point. Don't make a decision as soon as the game's over.
Yeah, because that's all you remember.
That's it. And you know, Sunday, we gave out 2 plays on the show. I ended up only using the 1 play for my clients last week. I used the Kansas City game. I did like Green Bay. We liked them for the first half on the show. I thought they would, show up, and they were, a no-show, as you said, Ace. But I was watching the second game at the Venetian. I was playing cards, watching the game. And as that game is in the final minutes of the fourth quarter, in the talk at the poker table, I love to hear what John Q. Public has to say. Okay, we talk about him all the time, and how the average bettor and how they see things. And we know the Super Bowl is the most bet game. It's the one game where they can actually totally outweigh. We talked about it in the national championship game with LSU and Clemson. They can outweigh the sharps. And I knew what the line was already, but I'm asking everybody, so what's the line going to be in the Super Bowl? I'm playing dumb, Not one person at the poker table said Kansas City is
the favorite.
Every one of them had San Francisco favorite. Anywhere from 1 to 3 points was the consensus number for those guys. And they said, what are they going to make the total? They got to make the total like 56, 55, 56. Well, it came out at 52, 52 and a half, and immediately got bet to 54 because that's what everybody saw, the high-scoring game. And as you said about, you thought Green Bay, quit in the first half. They did look like they quit in the first half. They come out with a little bit of a fire in the second half. But on the same token, San Francisco had such a big lead.
Yeah.
They go into, a little bit of a prevent defense. So it makes it look like, San Francisco did give up some points and Kansas City put up some significant points. But what's my takeaway is, and I talked about it last week when I was high on Kansas City, I badmouthed their defense. I thought the last 6 weeks of the season was counterfeit because they really didn't play any good offenses. They played 2 good offenses the last 2 weeks in the playoffs, and they shut both of them down. Kansas City's defense is not the defense we saw the first half of the season. They're playing good football, and they took the best running back in the game right now and made him 0 factor in that game.
And that's exactly what the San Francisco does well. So that's why it might stack up well for the Chiefs. But, Gianni, coming to you, in terms of the NFC Championship game and the AFC Championship game, both the favorites and overs hit. What do you think that means for these Super Bowl odds as the week continues here?
I don't think that's going to affect much of what the books were going to initially do.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is they had put out potential matchups, what the lines would be based on the 4 teams in the AFC and NFC Championship. And the number they put up for Kansas City versus San Francisco was pretty close to almost exactly where they opened it. They opened, I mean, prior to those games starting, Kansas City was -1 versus San Francisco with a total of 50.5. So they adjusted the total immediately, which is obvious. That's the move based on the bias we saw.
Right.
But they didn't mess with the side. So I don't think, because there really isn't a favorite to worry about here. I think more the concern is if the game goes over, how they're going to cash all those parlays and teasers. You know, if it isn't a blowout by one team, if it's a close game. Because I remember the last number of Super Bowls, we've had close point spreads. Prior to that, they were huge. In fact, a spread of 3 or less now has happened 4 times in the last 7 years. Prior to that, it happened 1 time in 31 years where teams were it was this competitive. So we've seen that of late over the last number of Super Bowls where they've been coin flip games. So I don't think the odds makers and bookmakers was concerned is they're going to come in with favorite and over, and we got to defend against that. Because I don't think there's an underdog in this game.
It's going to be all over for as far as the bets go. That's where the money's going to come because the average player, and I got to say, the books, it had what couldn't have been good results for the books because you know all the money line parlays were KC and San Francisco. All the teasers were KC and San Francisco. There were some people that were getting, you know, that would get cute and try to take the dogs in there and get them up there. But it was a situation where they were just picking a winner. But where everybody's at is the overs. And the fact that both overs covered, now you've got all of the average bettors that are going to the Super Bowl with money in their pocket. And they're not going to sit there and watch a game and bet the under. And that's why we're seeing such a rush on the over already. And we don't even have the tourists come to town yet. You haven't been here yet for Vegas.
The money hasn't gotten to the window.
Well, and that's my next question, Marco, is do you see any stop in sight until game day? Can this stop or does this continue?
It's when the sharps come in with their buyback.
If they get involved with the under, that's the only time. And even then, I don't think it'll be enough money, especially on a total, to affect it all that much. I think it'll.
So do we see 56?
It'll simply limit the risk the books have, but it'll also open them up to a bigger middle then. Also, the more higher they go, the more susceptible they are to a middle. That's the problem that they're going to have because they can't keep pushing that total up. Eventually, they're going to have to take a stand. And you should want to take a stand if you're a bookmaker because if you believe the true number should be 50.5, 51, and your bettors, your people are coming to the window and they're willing to lay -110 at over 54, over 55, as a bookmaker, you got to take that bet. You got to want to take that bet. Win or lose, you got to book that. So I think they're going to take a stand. They're not going to get up to 58.
And if you're a sharp, because I know we're running out of time, if you're a sharp, you bet the over already.
It's too late now.
Knowing you're coming back with the under later.
Man, great stuff, guys. We're going to step out for a quick break. When we come back on the other side, we're going to be taking a look at betting the props in the Super Bowl. That's up next on Bet On It.
Get $25 in WagerBucks added to your account after your first purchase at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com. This is just our way of saying thank you for joining the WagerTalk and Sports Memo family.
Did you know every Tuesday is $2 Tuesday at WagerTalk.com? We pick the hottest handicapper and offer his best bet for just $2. This is a great way to introduce yourself to the winning handicappers at WagerTalk and SportsMemo.com.
Welcome back to Bet On It. It's time to talk Super Bowl props. What's going to be happening here in Las Vegas on Thursday night at the Westgate. Marco, I know you know a lot about it. Want to lead us off?
Yeah, you know, for guys that have never been to Vegas for Super Bowl week, the Thursday of the week before is big time for the wise guys here in Vegas. And Westgate has been the place that has brought out the props, and they bring out that packet. Was it usually like
pages,
300?
Sure.
But they don't bring the sheets out on the first night. You have to go down to the Westgate. It's not on the app. Got to be there live. And they put all of the props up on the boards. They put them up, and you got to be looking at them. Get in line, and you go to the window. You can bet 2 props at a time. 1,000 or 2,000.
Was it
I
a
think
dime for some, 2,000 on others? I think.
And you make your 2 bets, you get out of line, you go back in line. You can keep betting all night long, but you can only bet 2 at a time. And the reason that they do that is they don't want one guy to go up there and sit there and pick off all of the numbers that they might, be off on. They want everybody to have a chance at it, and you'll see everybody that's anybody in town as far as a bettor goes. Now, Friday, then they'll print the sheets and put them out there, and they've done this because they do a lot of work. The team down there at the Westgate, they work on this stuff for all week long, getting ready for the Super Bowl and these props, and they don't want other places just copying and pasting, their props. But what we've seen this year, Ace, is there've been a couple other sports books that have brought out some props early, and it's good for them. It's become a very competitive industry right now, and anytime there's competition,
it's good for the better.
It's good for the better. The thing of it is we'll give, I think Caesars came out, South Point was the first out, and then I think Caesars came out with some after that. But let's not go overboard, because most of the props that they came out with already are the standard props that you would see
every
Sunday night, Monday night. So it's not like they're going out on a total limb. You can bet those for $1,000 right now, like at South Point. But the real guy in town for props is Westgate, and that goes back to Jay's days, Jay Cornegay, whenever he was in Imperial Palace.
Yeah,
they were the tops as far as the props go. And do you guys know, I know you know, Ace, but Drew, do you know how props really got started with the Super Bowls?
I would guess it was such a big moneymaker for the sports books. They were thinking, what are the other revenue streams we can do off of this?
No.
No? Okay.
The first major Super Bowl prop, Vegas took a beating.
Was it the coin flip?
Nope.
The fridge, baby, the fridge. William Perry.
William
scored.
Yeah, they put that up. Jimmy Vaccaro was the guy that did it, and put it up, got his head hammered in, because that year they were using a fridge. He was larger than life, excuse the pun, and they put a prop up, would he score, a touchdown in the Super Bowl? And it was long odds, because, who would have thought that they would have done that? But Ditka called the play, and he got the touchdown. But they saw how popular that was, and that's where props began.
And the only reason they came up with a prop was because if you look right prior to that Super Bowl, there was a number of Super Bowls that were blowouts. So people lost interest. Like, teams were winning.
So it's set up perfectly.
They needed something else to bet on.
What year was that about?
85.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
85. So to give people some else to bet on, because you're done. I mean, if you don't have any other action and Denver's losing by 21 or Buffalo's getting beat by 4 touchdowns to Dallas, what are you going to do?
I still say to this day, I don't know that
that
Mike
was in the
Ditka would
90s.
ever admit it publicly, but if he has one regret in his coaching career, I think looking back and then, the things that happened, with Walter Payton and the sickness and everything afterwards, I think he really wishes that he wouldn't have went for the hype and gave the ball to the fridge, and that he would have got Payton his touchdown.
Yeah, it happens, though.
Yeah.
Marco, you made a comment there in terms of not wanting to steal the props and just do it themselves. Is there stuff going on in the industry that maybe a lot of watchers out there don't know about, of sportsbook directors kind of, unwritten rules, like don't steal my props?
Well, it's not unwritten rules, but you're all competing. All the sports books are competing for the same dollars, okay? So if you're the first out with anything, you're going to get that publicity that you are first to do it. For several years, it was every June, the Golden Nugget here in Las Vegas, Tony Miller he'd bring out what was called the Games of the Year.
In college football.
College football. Yeah. Everybody would go down there, line up to make those bets and everything. And it was a good thing for the Golden Nugget. It got them a lot of publicity. People, all the same well-known sharps in town, they would be there. It's a who's who at the Golden Nugget when that would happen. And then as some other sportsbook directors took over at different places, they started to try to slide those out as well and jump in front of them, maybe with smaller scale, but they wanted to take some of that limelight. And it's competition. And what's that do for us as bettors? It makes it better for us, because if you're rushing to do something, because you just want to be the first one to market, there's going to be mistakes made, okay? Let's give Circa a lot of credit this year. Circa was the first sports book every single week that brought out the football lines, college football
sides and totals.
Totals, nobody would do that. So I give them a lot of credit for it. Did they have limits on it? Yes. But it got them publicity. And in a year when Circa actually opens the new casino downtown, it's going to be a game changer for the sports betting climate because they're doing things, they're being very aggressive, and their book is going to be the biggest in the world. And the renderings, if you saw any of them, it's sick how sweet this sports book's going to be. So I give them credit for doing that, but on the same token, it's letting them massage the numbers. And this is something that I've always had. Don't kick out sharps. Sharps can be your friends if you know how to work with them. Let them have it. If you want to limit how much they bet,
sure.
I'm okay with that.
Every market in the world has limits.
Okay, do that, but let them help you massage the numbers. How many people, Ace, you could talk about it back in the day, the overnight lines came out from the Stardust. But there were certain people that got to bet into those outlaw lines before they even got to the public.
Of course.
And they gave them that ability. Hey, we'll let you go into these numbers, but you're fixing it for us. You're helping us get to where the true market would be. So the sharps got the advantage of betting into those numbers, but they also helped the books. And I think it's a two-way street. It's something we need to see more of.
Yeah, good stuff, Marco. And Ace, let's come to you in terms of, any tips you want to throw out there for betting the props into the Super Bowl?
Yeah, and I mean, this is what we got to break down. That's the key, how to take advantage of this prop market, because this is the time where you really can do some damage. And unlike the regular season where the betting syndicates don't really get involved because the prop limits are so low, the amount of work they're going to put in for the edge that they have, the amount you could get down, it's just not worth the work. So they don't really get involved too much. But the Super Bowl is a different animal. They could get a lot of money down on these props. So you'll see a lot of sharp money come in. So you got to pay attention to it. Here's some things that are automatic. When I first came out here, there were a lot of different books. So you were able to scalp and middle props and do nothing else. I mean, they opened yardage different. They opened so many props at different prices. That's no longer the case. It's uniform pretty much across the strip. You could find some middles and scalps, but not like it was 20 years ago. So now you really have to handicap and do your work. But there are some things you do want to take advantage of, and that's A, try to avoid most of the yeses. Those are mostly plus money, and you're more times than not taking the worst of it. I'll give some secret away. We used to bet the no overtime. We used to bet the no missed extra point, no two-point conversion. Prior to the rules changes, I had the green light to bet those every time I saw them for as much money as I could. And also, here's a new one for you. It'll stop working eventually. It's worked for the last 10 years. Every player, no. Will they score a touchdown or not? Just bet the no. Every single player. Last year, I think only one of the dozen or so players on there scored a touchdown. It's worked for a dozen or so years. Eventually, the market catches up, though.
I like it, Ace. And
not only what you said about don't bet the yeses, but if your card of props is all overs, you're going to be in trouble.
Especially on this kind of Super Bowl.
Yeah, you gotta watch out there with in terms of risk
inflated
management.
prices.
Yeah, good stuff, Gianni. And guys, we're going to get some of Marco's looks on the props as well. Also hit some NBA on the other side of this break. So time to take a quick break, but we'll be right back for Bet On It. Hey guys, been heating up of late. 9-2, 82% last 11 plays, but even more impressively, since the start of 2016, 163 and 118. That's 58% college basketball totals since the start of the 2016 season, plus 42 units on a 1 to 2 unit scale, meaning $100 better, up over $4,000 in that time frame. Coupon code DREW249 for the rest of my college basketball season. That's $300 savings. It's good through Sunday night, this coupon code, guys, and that includes the rest of the college basketball season throughout the Final Four. Coupon code DREW249 at checkout. Best of luck if you tail.
This week only, get 30 days of all-access service from your favorite capper at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com. A 30-day package normally sells for $349, but when you use coupon code VIP249 at checkout, you'll get 30 days for just $249. That's every play in all sports for $249. This includes all 5% plays that sell for $40 by themselves. Hurry, as this is a limited time offer.
Welcome back to Bet On It. As we announced last week, Bet On It will run through the month of June as we will be covering college and NBA basketball, as well as special events. So let's take a look at some of the bigger NBA games this week. Marco, we got the Clippers, we got the Heat. I know you got something on it.
Yeah, Friday night. And Drew, what I want to explain to our listeners, unlike doing Bet On It during football, all the lines are out. You know, we're talking about games on the weekend. Lines have been out since Sunday, Monday morning, whatever. We don't have that luxury when we're doing basketball because the lines are not out in advance. So what we're going to be doing is giving you a projection, what we feel our particular team's going to win by. When you get to Saturday and Sunday, whenever the games are being played, you look at what our projection is and what the line is. And if we say a team by 5, they come out as a 2-point favorite, well, obviously, you've got to play. If we say by 5 and the line's 8, you've got a dog play. So,
yeah.
You know, it's a situation there of what we're doing. And let's start it off with the Clippers in Miami. You look at this game, and Miami, what a surprise they've been. And I know you're originally from South Florida and, you know, hanging on the beach and everything else.
Yeah, right.
Did you see this out of the Heat coming this year?
No, they've been really surprised.
Yep.
One of the most surprising teams in the NBA.
And to be honest with you, I'm surprised that, you know, Jimmy Butler, he's been a head case at a lot of the places, but he finally got what he wanted. He's the man. I mean, who's the other superstars there? Okay, you know, so he gets to do what he wants to do there. He's the man. They're playing well at home. Whether it's like we talk about here in Vegas, the first year with the Golden Knights, they called it the Vegas flu. Is it, you know, South Beach flu down there?
Right. Okay, I see what you're saying. The away team coming in and struggling.
Yeah, because they're 19-1 straight up as we're taping at South Beach. I mean, this team's played well, and they've done well against the spread, 14-5-1. Clippers, they're basically a little over 500 team. They're 12-9 straight up on the road, 10-11 against the spread. But I don't put as much emphasis on that stat because the Clippers are one of those teams that if they play back-to-back games, you know you're not getting Kawhi in the second game. And teams are more apt to set a star on the road than they are for their home crowd. So we're never getting a full-strength Clipper team every single road game. So their numbers are going to be skewed. But when they don't have somebody the day before, and it's a marquee game like this one, because Miami's second-best team right now in the East, standings-wise, it's a statement game, and you're going to get the Clippers' best game. I like the Clippers in this game. I've got the Clippers winning by 5. Line's going to come out small number, 1.5, 2 is what I'm projecting. I like the Clippers. I'm on them.
And Ace, what are you liking in the association this weekend?
Are we covering the Lakers-Philly game?
This one is you have this, if you have opinion here, give us an opinion on this one.
I mean, I lean the Clippers in this game, too, as well. I mean, Miami's 9.5 games ahead of Orlando. They're going to be able to coast their way into the Southwest with no problem. And they're one of the best home teams in all of the NBA. Lost one game there at home. So it's tough to fade them, especially if they're getting points. So for me, I lean Clippers, but that's what scares me, betting against a team that's that good at home.
Okay. And Marco, did you want to hit on another game before we get our resident stats guy in?
Yeah, well, let's go to Ace on this one. Start with him. The Lakers-Philly. That's his old hometown, the 76ers.
And you're probably going to get value on Philadelphia as long as Embiid's out. I mean, he leads the team in points, rebounds, and he's with the hand problems till February, they're saying. But with that said, Philadelphia can play some ball at home. They've lost only 2 games there all season. Their problem is being able to win on the road. And in the playoffs, you got to be able to do that, especially a team like Philadelphia that's not going to get home court advantage throughout. Where the Lakers, they've played even better ball on the road than they have at home as far as their win percentage goes. And I think that's why you are going to get some value here on the Philadelphia Sixers. And I think if you could get them at a pick 'em or catching points, that's the side that I want to look at. The Lakers are one of the best defensive rebounding teams in all of the NBA, but the only problem is they're going up against an even better rebounding team in the Sixers. I think that's where they beat them on the boards. I like the Sixers.
Rebounding's so important. And Marco, what do you think about this one?
Well, from a situational standpoint, we know the Lakers, they always show up when it's a TV game. We saw them last Saturday night. They were on against the Rockets, and they delivered without Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis returned on Monday. Philadelphia, though, they're 20-2 straight up at home. The one thing they have played is played well at home. And for the Lakers, this is going to be their 4th game in 6 days for the Lakers. So it's a bad spot for them. Tough home court for Philadelphia. I got to go with Philadelphia. I actually got Philadelphia pulling off the victory. I got them by 6 points here. I like Philly.
Guys, we've only talked a couple games. We've seen 19-1 for the Heat,
Yeah.
20-2 for Philadelphia. I mean, college basketball, road team can't win for their life. What's going on this year in basketball? Have you guys, is this a trend that's going to continue in terms of home court mattering this much?
It's a surprise to me, this dominant that we've had with the teams, especially the 2 teams that we're talking about, because Philadelphia in the past has been up and down. They've not been consistent. And as we talked about with Miami, nobody saw this coming this year from them.
Right. And Marco, just to follow up to that, I mean, we got the New Orleans Pelicans hosting the Boston Celtics this weekend in the NBA. Of course, a lot of people focusing in on Zion Williamson. Would you actually look to fade him here off the top?
I absolutely do look to fade because they've played so well right now. They've played all year without him. Now they got to learn how to play all over again. He hasn't played in game situations with them. The chemistry's off. I mean, it's going to take, it's like when you move in with a new girlfriend, you got to be, you know about that, Drew. you got to find, he wants to go days. It's a learning process. So I think that there's going to be some growing pains with the Pelicans. It's going to be that initial boost. The crowd's going to love it, but yet they're not going to be in sync. And I think you go with a good coach team like Boston. I've got Boston winning by 4 in this one.
Yeah, I agree. And usually the market's going to overvalue. We always do. We overvalue what players are worth. We think they're worth more to their team for wins and even for each particular game, and it's just not the case. And I think that's what you're going to get here. And the one thing with New Orleans is they just can't play defense. I mean, they're just an offensive team that just allows way too many points. And I don't think they'll be getting enough in this spot to even get that cover at home.
And Ace, real quick, we're coming up to a break, but would you say basketball, one player matters more than any other sport?
Well, except tennis and
right. Okay. Good catch there.
It's huge. I mean, especially you get a point guard out, there you go. That's everything. In college basketball, you go from a senior point guard to a freshman, all of a sudden the game's over. I think basketball for sure.
Chemistry and continuity is very important and as I said, you're going to get added value because they're going to overreact to Zion being back.
Man, great stuff, guys. We got Ralph Michaels coming up next, our resident stat man with some TNA. And here he is, Mr. Ralph Michaels from WagerTalk.com on Twitter at CalSportsLV. Welcome in, buddy.
Drew, you're a great fill-in for Kelly today. An awesome job.
It's just one of those situations. I'm more of the game manager, not going to do anything crazy. Just give it to the heavyweights here.
You're safe, right? Marco VR will do the heavy lifting.
Exactly.
You're
exactly
just
it.
Leading the way. Well, we're transitioning from from football to basketball. So anyone that has anything they want me to run, you're looking at a specific situation, reach out to Marco on Twitter or me at Twitter at CalSportsLV. Shoot me an idea. And hey, next week, your idea could be on here as one of the systems. I have one in college basketball, Drew, and I'm going to put you on the spot. Since 2006, so we have a long sample size. If you are a favorite, off an away win by 20 or more points, and both teams have a win percentage of 80% or more. So college basketball, 2 elite teams. The favorite is off an away win of 20 points or more. Does that favorite, how do they do? Do they do well or do they do poorly against an elite team?
I would guess do poorly.
You guessed well. That favorite off a 20-plus point road win, 24-62, 27.9% against the spread. Wow. That shocked the heck out of me. Yeah. Because you think if you're off at a big away win and you're facing an elite foe, you'd be ready for that foe, but numbers sometimes are fickle. Here's one that's going to be valid for this weekend in the NBA. Home teams off a home loss with at least 2 days rest and at least 2 days into their next game. So you have a 5-day period with a 1-game standalone. Those teams at home off a home loss with that 5-game stretch, 6 overs, 28 unders, 17.6%. That is going to be the Hornets against the Bucks, January 24th. So it's a game they can mark on their calendar right now to take a look if that game does go under the total.
Wow, okay.
In the NBA, there's no situation for this upcoming, but it's easy for people to look at. If you are a favorite and you're off a win as a favorite, and the team you're playing shot under 35% in their last game, those favorites off a win as a favorite against a team that shot poorly, 47-15, 76% against the spread. So if that player's playing poorly and you're playing well, it holds true that as the favorite you cover. And, one more thing I want to mention. This goes back, I did numbers since 2015. I think the common belief would be if you're off a home loss as a favorite of 8 or more, do you bounce back the next game?
I would think so, yes.
And they do. 130 and 157%. But if you're off an away loss as an away favorite, you're only 46%. So if you are playing an NBA team off a loss as a favorite of 8 or more, if you're off a home loss, you rebound to the positive. If you're off an away loss, you rebound to the negative.
Man, interesting stuff there and how that works out, Ralph.
There's a lot of situations and some you won't believe. We got a couple seconds left. I'm just going to run through some team angles for Saturday. These are team specific. Cal State Fullerton, 12 straight losses against the spread at home. They're playing Northridge. Tennessee Martin, 18-3 to the over their last 21 games. And UAB, 9 straight unders at home.
Thanks, Ralph. We're going to a quick break. We'll be right back with College Hoops.
Guys, we are 24-12 with our last 36 football plays. That's a 66% winning run, including going 3-0 in the playoffs the last 2 weeks. Our college basketball has netted our clients a 62% bankroll increase since December of 2018. Get 30 days of all-access service, normally $349 for just $249 when you use coupon code VIP249. Go to my homepage now at WagerTalk.com to sign up.
Be sure to check out Teddy Covers and Ralph Michaels on their new show, Wager Talk, each and every weekday on the Sports Grid TV network, live at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, noon Pacific. This is your daily Sports Central for gamblers, a full hour of loaded sports betting content. Check it out for free every weekday.
Welcome back to Bet On It. Time for us to take a look at some of the college basketball games this weekend. We got some big matchups we're going to break down for this weekend. Plus, it's SEC versus Big 12. The little, what tournament that they put on, really? Head-to-head action here, and we're starting off with that, Ace. We got Baylor, the #1 ranked Baylor Bears, heading down to Gainesville, Florida, in the O-Dome there. And just looking at Ken Palm right here, we got 65-64 projections. So Ken Palm's got it Baylor -1 on the road, at 129 being the total. This is a Florida team, I believe, 6 losses after last night. But heck, they've beat some big boys. They knocked out Auburn just this week. You interested in getting involved here?
Yeah, and I'm going to look to the Florida side. Baylor's one of those teams that is #1 in the country for one reason only, their record. And you see that in the AP all the time. In college football, in college basketball, it's record-based. A team with 3 losses is never going to be a top 10 team, even though power rating-wise they may be in college football. And I think that's how you could take advantage of a lot of the rankings, because they don't have nothing to lose by being off, unlike the sports book, which they back their opinion with cash. If they're off with a number, it's going to cost them. If the AP, if they make Baylor first or Kansas first, don't matter. So for me, I could 2-3 teams. Gonzaga would be favored over Baylor on neutral. I think Kansas should be favored over them on a neutral. There's a handful of teams, if not even Duke, possibly. So for me, I think this is the kind of team you want to look to fade against the spread when they're that highly ranked And I just don't see the body of work. The data just don't reflect that. Where with Florida, an unranked team, I think they're right there, like ready to crack that top 25, top 20.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what Mike White's been able to do there is pretty impressive in Gainesville. But Marco, what are you thinking here with Big 12?
Normally,
SEC?
I would be 100% in agreement on everything that Ace just said. The difference here for me with Baylor in this particular matchup is they're coming off a scare Monday. They just had a game Monday against Oklahoma where, let's face it, they had a big week last week. They went to Kansas and beat Kansas in Kansas. That was a big win. Come back on Saturday, which was a flat spot for them, and we were actually at the Westgate on Saturday, you and I doing a radio show
I was
there.
watching that game.
And they were down that whole game and made that late rally, and that was a natural flat spot for them after the Kansas game, and they were able to come back and win that game. And what happens? They come out as the number 1 ranked team, have that. It's been a game of hot potato this year. Whoever gets the number 1 ranking, it seems like they give it away as soon as they get it. And they almost did on Monday night. Plus, they had this game coming up on the weekend. So I think because of the scare, we're going to get the best Baylor performance. If they go to Florida and get the win, which I think they will, my numbers have Baylor winning by 5. I will probably be looking to go against Baylor after the Florida game on Saturday, whoever they've got up next in that one. So I've got Baylor by 5.
All right, so they might be able to hold on to that 1 seed another week here. And Marco, sticking with the SEC Big 12 challenge, don't want to make anybody mad out there. We got Kentucky, Texas Tech. Looking at Ken Palm right now, we got he has it projected 67-64, which would make the Wildcats -3 on the road in Lubbock, 131 the total. You interested in getting involved here with UK versus Texas Tech?
Yeah, I love Texas Tech in this one. And last night, and we were talking in the green room before the show, I had a big play last night on TCU. And if you looked at the current form of the teams, there's no way I should be on TCU last night, but it was the sandwich spot that we had for Texas Tech. They were coming off a 20-point blowout in their previous game over Iowa State, and they had Kentucky on deck. Texas Tech's a good program. They've had a lot of success the last several years, but you don't get blue-chip programs like Kentucky to come into your building during the season. This is a monster game for them, and they couldn't help but to look ahead to this game, and that's why I had TCU last night. I think you get the A game out of Texas Tech in this one. Kentucky, yeah, it's the same old story every year. Good team at the end of the season. Everybody leaves to go to the NBA, and you start from scratch, and you keep building during the season. And that's what you'll see with Kentucky again this year. I don't think they're ready to go on the road and win a game in this setting. If this game was played a month from now, I would probably have a different prediction. But I think Texas Tech is the better team right now. I'm going to take them. Any points we're getting, I think, is a gift. I've got Texas Tech winning outright by 6.
Like in Texas Tech, the Red Raiders. And Ace, coming to you on this game, I mean, these are 2 big-time head coaches. John Calipari, Chris Beard, 2 of the better head coaches in the country. Kentucky always talented, like Marco led on. But heck, going on the road here, tough spot. What are you thinking?
And they haven't been on the road much this year. I mean, all their games pretty much have been at home. I think they've been on the road 3-4 times. I mean, other than that early tournament stuff they have early in the season. I agree with Marco. I think Texas Tech's the side here, especially if they're catching points. I'd be willing to lay points here with this squad, obviously. 9-1 at home, only lost there 1 time. Junior point guard in Moretti. I like what this team does, and as tall as Kentucky is, that's where they give teams a lot of problems. They have that size. I don't think Texas Tech's going to be that undersized against them. Kentucky will have an easy go of it. So I agree with you. I like the Texas Tech side.
And maybe I read that wrong. Ken Palm does have Texas Tech as a 3-point favorite. And, of course, guys, these aren't exactly what the lines are going to be out.
No,
just
of course.
Somewhat something to go off of here. But, Ace, coming back at you, another big one here, Notre Dame versus Florida State. The Seminoles have been pretty impressive this year. And by Ken Palm's numbers, -10, 138 being the total. Any interest here in this ACC matchup?
Well, Notre Dame's got a tough game with Syracuse first tonight, which will they get by them? That's a coin flip game, I believe, based on the point spread. FSU, they're going to be off for a week. Pretty much. So they're in a good spot. I like them here. I think AP-wise, they're a little higher than they should be. I don't think Florida State's a top 5 team. I don't. But they're playing Notre Dame. And if there's one thing with Notre Dame, usually they're going to be one of those overvalued teams. You know, they still have that big name. Even if they're not a top 20 ranked team, that Notre Dame program usually gets money at the betting window. I think FSU should be an easily double-digit favorite here, and I think they should cruise to a nice 15, 16-point win.
What are you thinking, Marco?
I like Florida State here. I'll go into greater depth on this game when we get to the best bets at the end of this segment because this is actually going to be my best bet.
Too much of their points relies on three-pointers, man. You know, 40% of their points. And when you're on the road, it's tough to do.
That is true. And FSU's long, lanky, athletic. They're a tough. I don't like betting against that type of profile. We got one more game we want to break down here, guys. Michigan State, Minnesota. Ken Palm's numbers showing at 72-71. Sparty on top on the road, which would make them a 1-point road favorite. I'd circle that. Watch out in college basketball this year. Total of 140. What are you thinking here, Marco?
Yeah, this is a Sunday game. It's going to be nationally televised on Fox. So, you know, this is the first Sunday we don't have, well, there is a Pro Bowl. Like I said, this is the first Sunday we don't have real football. So this is going to be the spotlight game. And for Minnesota at home, this is a big game for them. Michigan State, one of the better teams in the country, but the last time they were on the road, now we're taping on Wednesday, so they are going to have a game on Thursday.
At Indiana.
A tough road game. But the last time Michigan State was on the road, they got smacked at Purdue. Worst loss of the season, and really one of the worst losses of all time in the Izzo era as they got blasted. I think the score was 71-42.
Only scored 42 points.
42 points in that game. So I like the fact that Michigan State is going to have a road game before this one because you know they're going to be focused for that first road game since the last disaster. If they go into Indiana and take care of business on Thursday, I will like this even more. I like the home side here. I like Minnesota. I think this is a great spot. And we have seen it this year where these teams, especially the Big Ten, the road teams have struggled in these games. Mm-hmm. And when you get, as you alluded to, you get these ranked teams with those small numbers where, you know, again, I hate to bash John Q. Public, but John Q. Public sits and looks at a game and they see rankings and they see a 1 or 2 point spread, and all I got to do, pick the winner. Come on.
Yep.
Right. They want that number next to the team. Yeah.
It's easy for them to do, and this is a case where I'm not going to do it. I like the home team here. Minnesota 9-1 at home this year, and as I said, throw in national, you know, primetime game, national TV. That's, to me, that's always worth an extra point, I feel, in the point spread whenever you have situations like that. I like Minnesota here. I've got them winning by 3.
And Ace, what are you thinking? Last game we'll break down before we get to questions.
I just think if the results of Thursday shouldn't affect this point spread. That's what I worry about. Because if it comes out at, like Ken Palm has Michigan State -1, then I would look to the Michigan State side. The only reason is because I think they're better. With that said, I think they're even undervalued based on where they are in the AP. And again, another team that has 4 losses, and that's the only reason they're not, you know, where are they? Number 11, that they're not even in the top 10. I have them near the top 5 power rating wise. And Michigan State senior point guard, you know, that's that Michigan State moniker. They're that team. And if they are able to dictate tempo, which Minnesota doesn't like to move very fast, if they're able to do that on the road, I think this is a very winnable game for them.
Guys, I said questions, but actually forgot. I don't know how I forgot about this. Best bets.
Oh, yeah,
for the show. So we'll do an extra thing at the end for questions. Excuse me. But
you've got a best bet too. Let's start with you.
Yeah. You can go too. Mine will be quick.
Yeah, we want to put you on the hook here.
All right, let's go. Baylor versus Florida. We had some differing opinion here, guys.
You're going to be the tiebreaker.
Yeah, and this Baylor team, the way that they rebound, I love the better rebounding team. I know they're going on the road, and hey, it's one of those situations where it could get away from Baylor, just tough situation, tough atmosphere. But I think Baylor's going to go there, going to go down to Gainesville, control the boards. This is a tough team. I mean, a team that's won 15 in a row. Their last loss was against Washington. That's November 8th. Number 4 in defensive efficiency. Number 25 in offensive efficiency. Slower tempo. Always easier to slow a game down than speed it up. So I think they'll control the pace a little bit more. And it's not like Florida wants to speed it up either. So if the line's -1, I think Baylor, I'd bet them all the way up to -4.
I like this host. He agrees with me.
I like it.
Ace, what do you got?
Real quickly, I'm going to go to UFC Raleigh. You want a best bet? It's a little chalky, but again, the value is that the price should be a lot higher, and that's Alex Perez. He's -250 against Jordan Espinoza. Should be about -400. No lie, should win this fight 8 out of 10 times. You're getting a ton of value. He's a lot younger. Whether this one stays standing up or whether he's able to take him down, because Perez is just such a good grappler. If he's able to take him down, it'll be even easier. But it's a flyweight bout, so if you're cheap and you don't like laying chalk, bet this one for him to get it done not inside the distance, to have him do it by decision. And I think you're getting like +120, +150. So if you don't want to bet him as a favorite, you could get him at that underdog or close to even money price to get it done that way.
Marco, what do you got, man?
Well, I teased it earlier. I'm going with Florida State in this one, and I know Notre Dame. You look at Notre Dame, their last 9 games, they're 5-4, and the 4 losses have been by a grand total of 11 points. So when people see this line come out on Saturday and they see Notre Dame plus the points, they're going to just want to run and take Notre Dame. Stop, okay? Notre Dame has played the 144th toughest schedule in the country. Florida State's played the 40th toughest schedule. This is a team, Florida State, that is better than people realize, and they're coming off a scare on Saturday. They had to go to overtime to beat Miami. Well, why? That was a huge flat spot. They just beat the national champ Virginia Cavaliers in the game before that. That was a big game for Florida State. This is another big game for them. I think they're too athletic for Notre Dame, and as you said, Notre Dame likes to live and die by the 3. We're taking Florida State. I've got them winning by double digits.
I like that one, Marco. The Seminoles. Guys, we're going to step out for a quick break, and when we return, it's our final thoughts on this week's action.
I'm Gianni, the Greek Corrales. It's no secret less than 1% of bettors are profitable long term. Since coming to WagerTalk, I won money for subscribers in 2018, I won money for subscribers in 2019, and we're already up money for 2020. I can't promise you I'll win every bet or every day or even every week, but what I will do is win long term. So jump on board for the next 30 days. Just use the VIP coupon code for only $249. Use VIP $249. Jump on for the next 30 days. Super Bowl, college basketball, NBA, NHL, UFC, everything I bet you get for 30 days, $249. Jump on board.
Hey guys, I'm Lawrence Presman, the Prez, co-founder of WagerTalk. Excited that you're all watching Bet On It. Just want to tell you guys about our hockey show, Puck Time. It's honestly the best show that I do all week. We do it with all of the hockey talent over at WagerTalk and Sports Memo, from Alex B. Smith to Dave Koken, Carmine Bianco, Buster Sports, myself, and Andrew McGinnis. Different co-hosts every day. It's hockey all the time, and it's one of the best sports to bet on, and certainly the most exciting sport to watch. Check us out 2 p.m. Eastern every day, Monday to Friday, at WagerTalk TV.
Welcome back to Bet On It. This is the wrap-up edition, recapping all the plays for today's show. Start off in the NBA. We got Clippers at Miami. Marco liking Clippers by 5. Gianni, Miami at pick 'em or better. Lakers at Philadelphia. Marco likes Philadelphia by 6. Gianni, Philadelphia at pick 'em. Boston at New Orleans. We got Marco liking Boston by 4, as does Gianni. We got college basketball up next. Baylor at Florida. Marco liking Baylor by 5. Gianni, Florida at pick 'em or better. Kentucky at Texas Tech. SEC versus Big 12 showdown. Marco, Texas Tech by 6. Gianni, Texas Tech by 2. Notre Dame at Florida State. Marco, Florida State by 11. Gianni, FSU by 10. Michigan at Minnesota in the Big 10. Marco, Minnesota by 3. Gianni, Michigan State by 2. We got best bets. Marco liking Florida State by 11, his best bet. Gianni heading to the ring. UFC, Alex Perez minus 250 favorite. And I'm jumping on Baylor by 4 in Gainesville. Calling my shot here, 67-63. Guys, we had to cut one of the segments a little early. Marco, wanted to get your kind of final thoughts here on prop advice, betting the props into the Super Bowl.
Yeah, want to tell people that with the Super Bowl, it is one game. don't go crazy, because there's a gazillion props out there. And you could easily end up going nuts and having 30 different prop bets. Are you going to bet 30 games?
Because I've done that before. I've done that before, and you don't have anything to root for because you're thinking, what did I bet the whole time?
And one other thing that I would tell people when they're putting their prop bets together, think of it as a stock portfolio, okay? Don't have all of your props geared to one decision.
Good point.
Because a case in point, like last year, the books made so much money last year because everything went on. It was a low scoring game. If all of your stuff was geared to offense, you got drilled. You didn't cash a prop. None of them came in. And if your betting is going, now you do want to have your bet when you handicap it geared to what you think is going to happen, but try to diversify. Have some offensive props and have some defensive props. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, as my mom used to tell me.
Don't spend it all in one place either, guys. I hope you enjoyed tonight's show as much as we did doing it. For Marco, Gianni, Ralph, and myself, Drew Martin, good luck until next week's Let's Bet on It.